Good day, everyone. My name is Carolino Benedict from GATS. Today we will be considering part 3, which is basic calculation in sheets. We will be focusing today on doing basic calculations, which includes addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, calculating average, and then possibly percentage. Then again, we'll also look at sorting and filtering data. We'll also look at how to validate a data entry into cell. So let's move on. So we're going to open our Google Sheets. Okay, let's go to our drive. We are going to be using a pre-filled Google Sheet, but that is because we have known by now how to enter data into sheet. So we may not repeat that process in this particular video. All right, so let's open it. So here is our data. So let's assume that this data is representing student in higher institution. You can see we have ND1, ND2, 300, 500 level, 200 level, and the likes. Okay, let's say we want to look at their feeding. Okay, maybe possibly what they've spent in 2 days or whatever the case may be. And then we want to look at that data. Okay, we also want to look at the textbook they have purchased. All right, so let's assume that that is what we want to look out for, and then we will now look at a total by the time we want to go into calculation proper. So let's call this total expenses. Total expenses. All right, so now let's look at the first thing we want to look into, which is doing basic calculations in spreadsheet. In looking at the total for each of the students, we want to look at addition, right? Before now, in part 1 of Google Sheet, we had already exposed you to how to describe a cell. Now here you have a cell. This is a cell, and we said that before, a cell is described by the vertical alphabetical column as against the horizontal numerical row. All right, so we can say the particular cell that is highlighted already here before us is D3 because it is on the column D and row 3. So we call it D3. Again, this particular cell highlighted here is C3. So if we want to create or to find a total expense for this particular student, AD, so it means we are going to add D3 to C3. So how do you add? Simply click on your enter text and type equal to. All right, then go back to text, to text mode. Then type sum. You can see suggestions already appearing. So we're looking for sum. You can see it has already opened a bracket. So what do? We are looking to adding D3 to C3. So we'll say D3, put a comma, and then we add to what? C3. So let's say C3. All right, and then we enter. Simply click on this particular icon, and then it enters for you. So enter it. It has summed it. So you can see 3,000 plus 5,000 gives you 8,000. Now, instead of you to do the same thing for all the cells, just highlight from the first, highlight to the last row, and then click on it or double click on it and select autofill. Yes, it will automatically fill in the answers accordingly. So let's see. You can see that's giving us automatic answer. Okay, 1,500 plus 6,000 is 7,500. So on and on, you can continue like that. All right, let's add another column. Let's say difference. Okay, let's say difference. Let's say difference between the textbook purchase and the feeding purchase. So that is minus. So we're going to type our equal to minus. You can see it's going to give us a suggestion. Yes, you can see minus. Okay, so remember we're working on D3 and C3. If you start from any of these, it can still go, no problem. You can see what happened now. If you click on any cell, it will automatically pick the cell. So I'll just delete and just write D3. Okay, D3, and then put a comma and then put C3. So I click on OK. You can see it has automatically giving us. So we'll just click, drag to the last one, all right, and double click again and click on auto fill. It has automatically fill it as well. Let's look at multiplication. We're still working on D3, say 3 like that, so because that's the first row. Start with your equal to, don't forget multiplication. You can see multiply, yeah. So you have multiplying D3 and then comma C3, okay, and then you click on your enter. It has multiplied it. Click on it and drag down, double click, okay, click twice and then auto fill. It has multiplied it. All right, so what else can we do? So let's now look at the average for each student. Okay, average for each student between the textbook and the feeding. Average, since there are 2, that could just give us this plus this divided by 2. So let's see what it will come out with. So average, so we'll just say average, good, all right, that's that. So let's go down. So we'll type our equal to average. You can see average has come up. Okay, we want to look at the average between D3 comma C3, and then we'll click on okay. You can see it has given us the average. If you click and hold and drag, you just click again, gives you autofill, and it gives you the average for each of them. So let's now look at the percentage of expenses against the total number. Okay, so let's say this is the total expenses. All right, so if this is the total expenses, and then how many percent is textbook of the total expenses made by AD. All right, we're working on AD now. Let's say for instance we want to look at how many percentage of this total expenses is textbook purchase. All right, so that is what we want to look at now. And remember, total expenses is what is E3, while textbook purchase is D3. That is what we want to look at now. So in this case, it's going to be D3 all over E3 multiplied by 100. So we're going to type in equal to, open a bracket, D3 divide by E3. Close your bracket, enter, fine. Then we'll come and take note of change it to percentage. Good. All right, so let's click and drag. Autofill. All right, let's look at sorting and filtering data. All right, now we want to see if paraventure we can be able to filter this data. But before then, let me quickly show you the function of this particular item here and this. All right, this is simply going to help you to either increase your decimal post places or reduce your decimal places. So you can see this particular item or answers are in 2 decimal places. That's 2 digits after the decimal point. So we can reduce to 1 decimal place, we can increase it from 1 decimal place, or from 2 to 3 or like that. This is what you are going to need. All right, and this too. Okay, now let's look at it. If you click, you can see it has changed it to 1 decimal place. I can click on the next one and to increase it to how many decimal places as I want, reduce it to 1. Okay, so we can now equally do the same. Just click and drag, okay, and autofill. Okay, let's say we want to remove this. Let's remove all this. Let's clear them. Okay, since we have this, yeah, click drag, autofill. You can see it has changed everything to single decimal place. So that is it. So we'll move on to filtering the data. We want only the data for student in ND1 to show. All right, so we'll see we have ND1, we have ND1, we have ND1. So we want to see how we can filter this data such that only ND1 will show, or ND2 will show, or 300 level, as the case may be, according to your choice of what you want to see alone. So how do you do that? Just click on any column and come and use your three dots here. Okay, let's click that, and then you can see create a filter. All right, so let's do that. When you create a filter, you can see it has highlighted on in each of the columns. You can see these particular icons here. You can see this particular icon here, the same thing here. All right, so you can see they are already there. That's to tell you there's a filter already activated. So let's click on the icon, and then you can see options that have come up. Now, how do we go about it? So we can filter by condition, we can filter by color. If the chart was to have a color, then you can filter by color. But now we want to filter by what? Condition. Meaning we want to condition the sheet such that only those cells that meet the criteria or the condition will appear. Alright, so we now say by condition, click on it. Now we want to filter that only cell that has a particular criteria or meets all a particular criteria should show. If it is a cell that is empty that should show, it means only cells that are empty will show. Let's say by this, and then you go back. Okay, that's okay. You can see it has made all the data to disappear. Only empty cells are appearing. You can see only empty cells are appearing. Cells that has data are gone. Remember that these titles will not be removed because they are the headings, but data under the headings are what will disappear. All right, let's undo. Let's go back again and see what the next one will look like. All right, so let's see by condition. So we want to say that cells that are not empty should appear. That means any empty cell will disappear. This is it. That's already give a boundary. That boundary is showing you that all the data here, all the cells that are being bounded have data inside. That is why you see that the boundaries are there. Had it been there were empty cells in between the data, those empty cells would have disappeared. All right, so let's look at another one. We want to text contains. So let's type what we want the text to contain. Remember, we say we want to looking at ND1. So we want to look at ND1. It will only show, and let's see what will happen. You can see it has automatically removed every other cell. So only cells that contains data of ND1 all through the data entries is what is appearing. I can start to view only anything I want to. Just come and condition what you want, and that is all. You can see it is highlighting here that only ND1 should show. You can be able to clear. So let's clear that. See, data have been cleared. Well, let's undo. Okay. So that is for filtering and sorting a data. Now let's look at the next thing, which is validating a data. We want to see how to validate a data. For instance, I want to validate a data. Maybe you want to create another column and we want them to be filling the email, for instance. Now let's see how we can validate the data. So let's highlight all the column that they will be filling. Click on the three dots, click on validate, data validation. Good. So click on it. You can see it's indicating all the cells you have that we've highlighted. Sheet 1, you can see J3 to that column there means to J3 to J15. Yeah, that is what it means. So let's do that. Then you can see you can now list what you want, the criteria you want. Okay, if you want it, let's see what's inside. You can see, so list items. You can see list items, list from a range. I mean what you want the cell to be doing by the time a data is to be entered. So you can either list an item, you can either list from a range, you can either make it a text box, you can either make it that text should contain, then it will not bring up another criteria that the text should meet. The text does not contain, meaning if peradventure a text contains what it is not supposed to contain by your criteria you've instructed, the text that is entered will be rejected. Okay, Then so it will only accept a text that does not contain what you have indicated. Then text exactly what. So let's look at it one by one. Let's say list of items. Okay, so you now have items. Key. Okay, let's just put in anything and see what it is. So let's save and see what it is like. So you can see it has brought up a drop down button. You see each of them has a drop down buttons, all of them. So if somebody wants to fill, you can just click on it. It will bring suggestions, so you can now click anyone. So it's automatically fill it for you. Let's go back again, data validation. So we have done list of items. You can say list from a range. You can look at tick box. Okay, let's see what tick box is like. You can see it has brought up, so they can be able to tick. You can see they can tick which one it is. But let's undo. Okay, right, you can choose what you want. If you want that the text enter that should be a valid email, you can click on it. If you want it to be a valid URL, you can click on it. Whatever you want it or the criteria to be, anything you want the text to be entered into the cell to contain is what you validate it to be. So let's use text is valid email. All right, so that is that. Then this option will now tell you, do you want to show validation help text? So we want to show so that it will help guide. You can edit it. So you can say enter a valid email text. So by the time the person clicks on, or anybody or someone wants to fill the form, clicks on that particular cell, this is what we show. Okay, it will show enter a valid email address. So you okay it again. You can either check on this circle, it will show warning. If peradventure what they enter is not a valid email address, it won't delete it nor reject it, to accept it, but then it will give a warning signal that this is not a valid input. However, if you check this particular circle, if peradventure what text is entered into the cell is not a valid email address, it will reject the input and just tell you text not a valid email address. So let's see what it is, because we are going to check that. So let's check this. All right, and then we'll save. So let's see. So I want to fill the form, and I've come to email, and I want to type I don't know, and I want to click OK. You see it has rejected. Say enter a valid email address. Oops. So that's what will happen. Now let's go back, revalidate it, and check on show warning sign and see what it will look like. All right, you can see it is showing I know that I just enter, but then there is a signal, a red signal at the top here showing that the input is invalid. All right, that is what it means. So that is what you can do, or what it means by validating an input. Okay, you can see enter a valid email address in red. If you click here, enter a valid email address, not in red, showing there's no input yet, but where there have been an input is showing, indicating a warning that this is not a valid email address. Let's go and revalidate it to possibly URL. So let's say we want a URL. Text is a valid URL. Okay, and then we want to save. So let's type. You can see it will tell you enter a valid. Okay, this is a URL. That's because that's the only one with it. So let's put it on others too and autofill. Okay, but then let's clear them. Let's clear. Okay, see, enter a valid URL. So let's enter. Let's say forms.google.com. Okay, you can see it's a valid URL. That is why it is accepted it. Okay, and once you click on it, it will also show you that this is a valid URL, which means you can either copy it, or you click on this, it will take you to the site. All right, so far so good. We have been able to see how to do basic calculations in spreadsheets, sort and filter data, and also how to validate a data. And at this point, we believe that you have gained one or two things. If there is any comment or any question, you can always drop that in the comment box and they will be addressed. Thank you for watching.